welcome back to our channel. This 1-cent penny could be worth a fortune, but only if you know what to look for. The year was 1990, a seemingly ordinary time in the grand scheme of American numismatics. The U.S. Mint operated routinely, with Denver and Philadelphia churning out billions of Lincoln cents. These 1-cent coins, bearing the enduring profile of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner, continued their unbroken legacy that began in 1909. But in the realm of mass production, perfection is a myth. Machines hum, presses strike, and metal flows like clockwork, but somewhere in the relentless rhythm of copper-plated zinc, a whisper of anomaly crept into the system. Unnoticed, undocumented, and unspoken, it emerged. That anomaly bore the same familiar face. Lincoln's silhouette still gazed rightward with resolve. The reverse still displayed the Lincoln Memorial, so utterly familiar that it lulled observers into complacency. A coin among coins, indistinguishable at first glance, it passed through hands unnoticed, dropped into pockets, swallowed by vending machines, and forgotten in drawers. That was its camouflage. Its ordinariness was its disguise. It wasn't until years later that a collector, seasoned but modest, a man known only in regional circles, found himself hunched over a pile of cents at a local estate sale. He had done this countless times before, combing through coin jars, sorting wheat from memorials, glancing for double dies and repunched mint marks. He wasn't seeking fortune. He sought stories, inconsistencies, echoes of human error preserved in metal. When he found the 1990 cent, he noticed nothing strange at first. He nearly discarded it. But a flicker of hesitation made him pause. He brought it closer to the light. There was no mint mark. No tiny D beneath the date. No indication of Philadelphia, either. The area beneath, 1990, stood bare, plain, unmarked. A missing mint mark isn't unheard of in older coins, particularly those before 1980, but this was 1990. Since 1980, the Mint had standardized the inclusion of mint marks on all circulating coins. A 1990 cent without one should not exist. And yet, there it was in his palm, staring back at him with silent defiance. Doubt crept in. Maybe it was a fake. A tampered piece. He examined it under magnification. The surfaces were consistent. The fields, the devices, nothing seemed tampered. It wasn't altered. It was minted that way. He examined more 1990 cents for comparison. All had the D or P. Only this one stood bare. Something about its luster, its edges, its strike, he recognized the sheen of a proof coin. And that's when the realization truly struck. The U.S. Mint occasionally releases proof sets, polished and struck with extra care, for collectors. These are not for circulation. In 1990, the San Francisco Mint was solely responsible for producing proof cents, and every one of them should have proudly carried the S mint mark. Yet this proof cent, had none. He was holding a 1990 no-S proof penny. Only a handful were ever confirmed. The San Francisco Mint had apparently struck a few proof dies without the mint mark punch, an oversight that went undetected through quality control. Somehow, a small batch of these coins entered proof sets and made their way to collectors, tucked neatly among the perfectly struck dimes and quarters and nickels, their secret unnoticed. For years, they sat in albums, inert and invisible. And now, one of them had resurfaced in the light of scrutiny. The collector's heart raced. It wasn't greed, not exactly, it was the gravity of discovery. He understood what he was holding. Fewer than 200 of these were believed to exist. And though the Mint never officially acknowledged the mistake in their early reports, the evidence was indisputable. The absence of the mint mark on a proof coin in 1990 was not only unusual, it was historically significant. News spread slowly at first. Among tight-knit circles of numismatists, whispers turned into discussions. Forums buzzed. Auction houses began to look closer at 1,990 proof sets. Submissions to grading services increased. Gradually, the 1990 no-S cent gained traction. It was no longer an obscure curiosity, it was a certified rarity. Some coins fetched several $1,000s when they first appeared at auction. And then, the numbers began to climb. In 2007, one of the early discovered specimens sold for over $20,000. That was the turning point. The coin's legend began to outgrow its origin. Dealers speculated on how many remained, how many sat unrecognized in dusty folders or long-forgotten sets inherited by relatives. Every time another surfaced, it reignited the debate. Was this a one-time error or the echo of deeper inconsistencies? But even as interest grew, the coin's value danced to its own rhythm. Prices fluctuated with the markets, with attention, with whispers. Some examples crossed the $50,000 mark. Others, depending on condition and luster, settled for less. Yet each transaction added a chapter to the coin's unfolding story. It wasn't just a cent, it was a message from the machinery of history, a misprint that escaped the forge of protocol. The collector who first found his example never sold it. He kept it, encased and untouched, beneath velvet glass. He received offers, many of them. Some collectors pushed with desperation, others with awe. But he remained unmoved. Not because of stubbornness, but because of reverence. That coin, for him, had stopped being currency. It was a secret he had discovered in the most mundane of places, a penny jar, and it had elevated the entire craft of coin hunting into something transcendent. Years later, another anomaly appeared. A coin dealer in Ohio found a suspiciously similar cent, also from 1990, also without a mint mark. But something was off. The strike wasn't proof-like. The surfaces were dull. It didn't carry the mirrored fields expected from a San Francisco proof. This wasn't one of the rare no-S proof cents. Or so they thought. As experts gathered to inspect it, new questions emerged. The coin bore unusual strike characteristics, too sharp for circulation, not quite right for a business strike. Under spectral analysis, traces of polish suggested it had come from a die prepared for proof strikes but halted mid-process. It was a hybrid, a transitional piece. A rogue cent from a time when the mint was refining their proof procedures. A ghost from a forgotten trial. That revelation sparked a renewed frenzy. Collectors scoured their 1990 coins, now alert to the possibility of more than one error type. The known no-S proofs were rare enough. But what if others existed, variants, hybrids, transitionals? What if the San Francisco Mint's mistake wasn't isolated but part of a larger, undocumented anomaly? The mint itself remained silent. No official statement. No records of error batches. Some believed the silence was protective, a measure against admitting the fallibility of quality control in such a revered institution. Others suspected the coins had been released intentionally by insiders, an old theory among numismatists, passed down like folklore. No proof ever emerged. Only the coins remained, over the decades, as other errors came and went, double dies, off-centers, mule coins. The 1990 no-S proof cent retained a distinct aura. It wasn't just the rarity. It was the quiet rebellion it represented. In a system obsessed with perfection, it was an outlier that passed undetected. It had been handled, rolled, perhaps even spent, before being rescued from obscurity. It wasn't minted to stand out, but it had. Today, high-grade specimens have crossed thresholds once thought impossible. Graded PR69 examples have sold at auctions for as high as $75,000, occasionally more when provenance added weight. The cent that once slipped by unnoticed now commands more than luxury watches and classic cars. And still, the exact number in existence remains unknown. Some say fewer than 150. Others believe the number could be lower still. After all, not every coin gets found. Some remain hidden, unclaimed, mixed in plastic tubes on dusty shelves, waiting for a moment of rediscovery. And then came one final twist. In 2023, a previously unknown example surfaced, not from a collector, but from a child's piggy bank in Tulsa, Oklahoma. A grandmother cashing in coins for her grandson stumbled across it while sorting change. She noticed the coin's unusually pristine condition and thought it looked a little shinier than the others. A local coin shop almost dismissed it until the employee spotted the date and the lack of a mint mark. Once confirmed, the find made headlines in numismatic circles not just because of its pristine condition, but because it had remained hidden in plain sight for over 30 years. That coin sold for $89,000 in a private sale arranged between two collectors who refused publicity. The story ignited new interest. Suddenly, collectors who had grown tired of the hunt found themselves drawn back in. Old proof sets were dug out from attics. New eyes began scrutinizing old coins, and through it all, the 1990 no-S proof penny endures, not as a fluke, but as a symbol. A testament to the idea that history doesn't always announce itself with a trumpet. Sometimes, it hides beneath copper, beneath a year stamped into zinc, beneath a missing letter that should have been there, but wasn't. It's a story told in whispers, traded between those who understand the thrill of the search. The coin itself is unchanged, 1 cent in name, but in reality, a priceless artifact born from an unnoticed slip, carried forward by those willing to look twice. In the unassuming year of 1996, the U.S. Mint continued its long-standing tradition of striking billions of 1-cent coins for everyday use, bearing the iconic image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. The Philadelphia and Denver mints worked steadily, their machinery in constant motion, producing a flood of copper-plated zinc coins that were destined to live short, unnoticed lives, spent, dropped, and forgotten. Amid this relentless output, a few anomalies crept quietly through the process, escaping detection and bypassing quality control. One such anomaly, a seemingly ordinary cent, would eventually reveal a secret that no one at the time could have foreseen. That cent was no different at first glance. Its reddish hue was familiar, the design unchanged for decades. Most would have never looked at it twice. And that is precisely what gave it power. Hidden among the masses, its uniqueness remained dormant for years, as the world around it evolved, as inflation climbed and payphones vanished, as pennies themselves began to face questions about their usefulness. And through it all, that 1996 cent sat silently, biding its time. Years later, at a quiet weekend coin show in St. Paul, Minnesota, a middle-aged collector named Carl rummaged through a dealer's discount bin. He wasn't a wealthy investor. His collection wasn't lined with gold coins or ultra-rare proofs. Carl hunted errors. He loved the imperfect, the flawed, the coins that bore the imprint of human miscalculation. To him, they weren't mistakes, they were moments of human presence in an otherwise automated world. Carl was flipping through a small pile of Lincoln cents from the 1990s when he came upon a coin that gave him pause. It was dated 1996, struck sharply, with reflective fields not typically found on circulation strikes. It looked too clean, too sharp. His instincts pricked. He pulled out a loupe and examined it further. That's when he noticed the anomaly. The coin bore no mint mark. At first, he assumed it was a Philadelphia strike. After all, the Philadelphia Mint doesn't use a mint mark on circulating pennies. But there was something about the finish. It had a mirror-like surface, almost proof-like. That made no sense. The Philadelphia Mint wasn't authorized to produce proof coins in 1996. That responsibility belonged solely to the San Francisco Mint, which applied the S mint mark to all proof coinage at the time. Yet this coin, with its unmistakable mirrored finish and frosted devices, had no mint mark at all. Carl was both electrified and uncertain. He had to be sure. He compared it to standard business strikes. The difference was undeniable. Then he compared it to known proof cents from the 1996 S mint sets. The appearance was identical, except for that one missing element. Where there should have been an S, there was nothing. A blank space beneath the date. The ghost of what should have been there. He sent the coin to a professional grading service. Weeks passed. Then came the confirmation, 1996 no-S proof Lincoln cent authentic. Verified. One of the rarest known modern U.S. coin errors, the official theory, pieced together by numismatic historians, suggested that during the early proof production at the San Francisco Mint in 1996, a die intended for proof coins was mistakenly left unpunched with the S mint mark. Before the error was caught, several coins were struck and unknowingly packaged into collector proof sets. These sets were sealed and shipped across the country, indistinguishable from the others, each containing a rare mistake hidden in plain sight. Carl's coin was the first confirmed example. But the ripple effect was instant. Word of the error spread. Collectors across the country began re-examining their 1996 proof sets. Coin forums lit up. Dealers pulled sets from storage, scrutinizing each cent under magnification. One more surfaced. Then another. But the numbers remained small. To date, only a limited number of these 1996 NOS-proof Lincoln cents have ever been confirmed, fewer than 24. As the coin's rarity became clear, so did its value. Initially, the 1996 NOS cent sold privately for modest amounts, around $15,000 to $25,000, depending on condition. But as awareness grew and fewer examples emerged, the market shifted. In 2013, a particularly high-grade specimen, graded PR69 Deep Cameo, sold at auction for $47,500. By 2017, another hit $62,000. In 2020, amidst renewed interest in error coins, one fetched $93,000. But it wasn't just the value. It was the mystery. Why did the San Francisco Mint, with its strict quality controls and routine die inspections, let this error escape? Theories varied. Some suggested a miscommunication during die preparation. Others pointed to human error during the manual punching of the mint mark. A few more conspiratorial minds whispered about intentional releases by insiders, a theory popular in numismatic folklore, though unproven. The mint itself offered no explanation, remaining silent in the face of collector inquiries. Then, in a twist no one expected, a retired mint employee anonymously contacted a coin publication. He claimed that in early 1996, a short test run of proof coins had been struck using new dies that had not yet received mint marks. These test strikes were supposed to be melted down, but some may have accidentally been packaged into regular proof sets during a rush period. He provided no documents, only his memory and knowledge of the internal procedures. Whether true or not, the story added a new layer to the coin's already elusive past. Carl, meanwhile, never parted with his coin. It remained the centerpiece of his collection. He gave lectures about it. Wrote articles. Became a minor celebrity in collector circles. His quiet discovery, made at a discount bin in a low-key coin show, became one of the most significant numismatic finds of the decade. New discoveries of the 1996 NOS continue to surface, but very rarely. Each one is scrutinized, authenticated, and documented. Grading services treat them with exceptional care, and when they hit the auction block, they stir excitement not just for their rarity, but for what they represent. A perfect storm of error, oversight, and survival. The 1996 NOS-proof Lincoln cent is more than a coin. It's a testament to the thin margin between perfection and anomaly. A reminder that even in the most controlled environments, a single oversight can birth something extraordinary. A misstep in the mint, a moment in time, immortalized in copper and zinc. Today, depending on condition, grade, and provenance, the 1996 NOS-proof Lincoln cent commands prices ranging from $50,000 to $105,000. A coin worth just 1 cent on paper, now valued more than most cars, more than some homes, a priceless artifact born not of intention, but of imperfection. In 1999, the final year of the millennium, the United States Mint remained a symbol of precision and consistency. As always, it produced billions of 1-cent coins, continuing the long tradition that began with the Lincoln cent in 1909. The year held significance, bookending a century of change, innovation, and tradition. The Philadelphia and Denver mints were busy, their presses working non-stop, ensuring a continuous supply of pennies to meet commercial demand. Yet, in the rush to meet high production targets before the new millennium dawned, a small error slipped past the watchful eyes of mint technicians. It was not a loud error. Not one to call attention to itself. But it would eventually become one of the most mysterious and sought-after Lincoln cent varieties of modern coinage. This 1999 cent looked completely ordinary at first. The familiar image of Abraham Lincoln, stoic and unwavering, was there. The Lincoln Memorial, structured and formal, graced the reverse. No one suspected that among the billions minted, a few dozen or so carried a feature that would set them apart forever. They didn't glow. They didn't misstrike. They didn't scream for attention. Their uniqueness lay in the subtle curvature of the design, something easily missed by the untrained eye. It wasn't until months later that a collector in New Jersey, an older man known for his meticulous attention to detail, began examining his recently acquired proof set from 1999. As he rotated the cent under a lamp, he noticed something odd about the obverse. It wasn't the date or the mint mark. It was Lincoln himself. The detail in his profile was sharper than usual, crisper, deeper, more three-dimensional. The same applied to the lettering. "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" appeared unusually bold and distinct. There was depth where there should have been flatness. Raised devices that had a pronounced, almost sculptural effect. It wasn't a misalignment. It wasn't a double strike. It was something else entirely. He compared it to other cents from the same proof set. The difference was stark. It was as if two completely different dies had been used. Digging deeper, he found similar reports scattered across collector forums. A handful of people had noticed the same thing, an unusually high relief on the obverse of their 1999 Lincoln cents. The coin community buzzed with speculation. Eventually, experts confirmed the truth. These were wide AM reverse proof cents struck with an experimental reverse die and a misplaced obverse master hub, an unintentional test that had been used in place of the standard 1. But as they continued their investigation, another layer emerged. A few of these coins, it seemed, were struck with a proof die but lacked the S mint mark. That should have been impossible. In 1999, all proof cents were supposed to be struck at the San Francisco Mint with the S clearly visible. And yet, here was a coin with mirrored fields, frosted devices, and no mint mark at all. The implications were enormous. Collectors dubbed it the 1999 no-S proof Lincoln cent. But unlike earlier no mint mark proofs, this one carried an additional mystery. It featured the rare wide AM reverse, a design change meant only for proof coinage but found, in this instance, on what appeared to be a transitional error. The story deepened. Numismatic researchers believe that a small number of these cents were accidentally struck with a combination of proof and business strike dies at the Philadelphia Mint. These hybrids bore characteristics of both formats: mirror-like fields, strong devices, and a reverse with a wide spacing between the A and M. In America, a telltale feature of proof coins that was not intended for general circulation. The Mint, whether unaware or unwilling to publicly acknowledge the error, never issued a statement. What remained were a small number of coins that defied every established rule of minting protocol. One example surfaced at a major auction in 2008 and sold quietly for just over $18,000. At the time, many dismissed it as a fluke, or perhaps a one-off mistake. But as more surfaced, each authenticated and verified by leading grading services, the value began to climb. Collectors realized they were witnessing something rare, an error created not by misalignment or damage, but by a mistake in planning and die assignment. In 2015, a PR68 example fetched nearly $42,000 in a private dealer transaction. 2 years later, another specimen sold at public auction for over $56,000. The excitement only grew as fewer examples emerged. With each confirmed piece, the market tightened. Collectors who owned one were reluctant to sell. Those searching were desperate to acquire. The coins became symbols of precision gone awry, of an institution slipping briefly in the final year of a century-long era, but the story didn't end there. In 2021, a man in Kentucky unknowingly spent one at a flea market. He had acquired it in a jar of change from his grandfather, who had kept proof sets for years but never checked them for rarities. The buyer of the coin, a teenager with an interest in coin collecting, recognized the unusual design immediately. His father submitted the coin to a grading service, and the results shook the numismatic world. It was a 1999 no-S proof Lincoln cent with the wide AM reverse, graded PR69. That coin would later sell for $92,000 through a private auction house, marking one of the highest known prices for the variety to date. News of the sale reignited a fresh hunt. Collectors revisited their 1999 proof sets. Dealers combed through returns and old inventories. Online marketplaces saw a spike in listings, though most turned out to be standard issues. The real ones remained elusive. The twist, however, was yet to come. In 2023, a collector in California claimed to have found a 1999 NOS cent not in a proof set, but in a roll of uncirculated cents purchased from a local bank decades ago. When verified, the coin showed hybrid features: a business strike surface with proof-like qualities, a wide AM reverse, and no mint mark. It raised questions about how many types of errors might exist for that year, beyond the known NOS proof. Was the mint experimenting with new die combinations? Or was this simply the result of die swapping under production pressure? To this day, no one knows for sure how many 1999 NOS proof Lincoln cents were released or how many varieties exist in different finishes. The mint has offered no comment. The coins have spoken for themselves, their very existence challenging the idea that the U.S. Mint's processes are infallible. Carl, the collector from New Jersey who first brought one to light, passed away in 2022. His coin, still in its original protective slab, now resides in a private collection, unseen by the public. Its story continues to inspire a generation of numismatists who know that even the most subtle design shift, the quietest error, can lead to monumental discovery. Today, the 1999 NOS proof Lincoln cent, especially those featuring the wide AM reverse, commands values ranging from $46,000 to $96,000, depending on condition and provenance. It remains one of the most fascinating and underappreciated modern errors, a coin born at the crossroads of 2 centuries, carrying with it the mystery of imperfection hidden beneath perfection. In 2006, the United States Mint moved forward with quiet efficiency. The Lincoln cent, still carrying the familiar visage of the 16th president on its obverse and the stately Lincoln Memorial on its reverse, was minted in the billions. It was a time of routine, of tradition carried forward without interruption. The Denver and Philadelphia mints produced mountains of 1-cent coins, each one indistinguishable at first glance from the others. It was the third year of the 21st century's second half-decade, a year not known for monumental change. But in that stillness, in that comfort of predictability, a deviation occurred, small, subtle, nearly invisible. The mistake was born not of carelessness but of transition. As the mint prepared to shift toward the 2009 Lincoln bicentennial cent redesigns, changes were already taking place behind the scenes. New dies were being crafted, new techniques evaluated. It was during this preparation phase that a coin slipped through, a 2006 cent that was not what it appeared to be. To the naked eye, the coin was typical. The date read 2006. There was no mint mark, indicating it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Lincoln's face was in place. The reverse, with its standard depiction of the Lincoln Memorial, seemed untouched. It passed through the machinery like billions of its siblings, bundled, bagged, and shipped into circulation. But what it carried within its metallic skin made it extraordinary. It was a collector named Maria from Oregon who first noticed something strange. She had been collecting coins casually for over a decade, focusing mainly on state quarters, but her son had sparked her interest in Lincoln cents. Together, they had begun sorting through penny rolls from the local bank, an inexpensive and surprisingly addictive family hobby. One evening, under a desk lamp and magnifying glass, Maria spotted a cent that glimmered oddly. It had an unnatural sheen, not quite proof, not quite uncirculated. She picked it up. Something about the texture was off. It had a smoother feel, more like a coin that had been struck on a foreign planchet. Curious, she weighed it. The coin came in under 2.5 grams, far below the expected 2.5 grams for a zinc cent. She weighed it again. Same result. She suspected a scale error and checked with another. Again, the same. Something wasn't adding up. She turned her attention to its edge. It seemed just slightly off in thickness, almost imperceptible but enough to raise suspicion. The color, too, was just faintly different, less coppery, more golden. She sent it for professional evaluation. Weeks later, the results confirmed what she dared not assume. The coin had not been struck on a standard US cent planchet. Instead, it had been struck on a planchet intended for a foreign coin, specifically, a blank meant for a coin produced by the mint for overseas circulation. The mint had struck coins for other countries in previous decades, and some leftover planchets had apparently been mixed in with domestic materials. This was not merely a penny struck off-center or a coin with a double die. This was a wrong planchet error, an accidental fusion of two minting purposes. And the coin had escaped undetected, circulated, handled, and forgotten until Maria's sharp eye caught it, but this wasn't the only anomaly. Around the same time, a collector in Georgia discovered a 2006 cent with sharply mirrored fields and deeply frosted devices, mirror-like surfaces inconsistent with normal business strikes. It looked like a proof coin but bore no S mint mark, the signifier of proof coins from the San Francisco Mint. This was another unexpected blend, a proof-style coin with the appearance of being struck at the Philadelphia Mint, where proofs were not made. Experts were baffled. Over time, more reports trickled in. 2006 cents struck with extraordinary detail, on incorrect planchets, or even showing light doubling around the lettering and Lincoln's profile. The errors weren't uniform. Some were planchet-based. Others were striking-related. But all pointed to one thing: something had gone awry at the mint that year. Not in mass chaos, but in small, isolated pockets of imperfection that slipped unnoticed into the broader ocean of copper-plated zinc. One theory emerged that gained traction among seasoned numismatists. In 2006, as the mint prepared for major design changes and production updates, it ran extensive tests on dies, planchets, and machinery. Some of these test coins, never intended to be released, may have been accidentally mixed into general circulation. In the chaos of high-volume production, especially during transition years, it was possible for unusual hybrids to escape. Whether these were transitional strikes, foreign planchet errors, or proof die tests gone wrong, the results were now surfacing. At first, the market was skeptical. Early finds sold for modest sums, as the errors were misunderstood or misclassified. A wrong planchet 2006 cents sold in 2010 for just under $8,000. Another, with a strong proof-like finish and no mint mark, sold for $12,000 in 2013. But as more documentation emerged and grading companies began recognizing the significance of these unusual specimens, values surged. By 2017, a 2006 wrong planchet cent sold for over $38,000 in a competitive auction, setting off a new wave of interest in late-date Lincoln errors. The community began compiling registries, cataloging the variations and building a clearer picture of what had once been a mystery. Coins that had once languished in dusty folders or change jars now commanded attention. In 2021, a high-grade 2006 cent with proof-like characteristics but no S mint mark, confirmed to be struck on a foreign planchet, stunned bidders when it sold for $84,000 through a private dealer network. Collectors began re-examining their pocket change, hopeful that another anomaly might be hiding in plain sight, but perhaps the most astonishing moment came when a mint employee, long retired, came forward anonymously through a collector's journal. He claimed that in late 2005 and early 2006, the mint had been testing new strike pressures and die combinations on surplus planchets. These were supposed to be destroyed, he said, but a few made their way into the production line by accident. No records were kept. No internal reports were filed. If he was telling the truth, it meant that these 2006 error cents were never meant to exist. That mystery, that gap in the official story, only added to the allure. The coins had crossed a threshold, not merely numismatic oddities, but historical artifacts representing the unknown. Each one offered a different variation, a different theory, a different secret waiting to be uncovered. Today, the 2006 U.S. 1-cent error penny has taken its place among the most captivating modern U.S. mint errors. Its many faces, whether struck on a foreign planchet, bearing proof-like qualities without a mint mark, or showing signs of die testing, make it a coin of layered intrigue. Each one tells a different version of the same tale. Something unusual happened in 2006, and the coins that survived carry that whisper from inside the mint's locked doors. Depending on the specific nature of the error, its preservation, and market demand, verified 2006 U.S. 1-cent error coins now command between $40,000 to $90,000 at auctions and private sales. What was once worth a single cent is now a prize that speaks to the magic of imperfection and the endless curiosity of those who seek it. In 2010, a new chapter had just begun for the United States 1-cent coin. The previous year, the nation had celebrated the bicentennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth with 4 reverse designs, each reflecting a unique period of his life. Now, in 2010, the penny transitioned into something different, the Union Shield reverse. With its bold, shield-based design and a scroll reading 1 cent, the coin symbolized Lincoln's preservation of the Union through the Civil War. It was a clean break from the Lincoln Memorial reverse, which had appeared for over half a century. The obverse still bore Lincoln's portrait, but the back was something new, something stronger, with heraldic tones. But even in this moment of forward motion and precision, imperfection found a way to slip in. The mint's facilities were busy, adapting to the changes. The Philadelphia and Denver mints were tasked with producing billions of these new coins, and with any first-year issue, heightened attention was expected. Yet, with high-volume production and fast-moving schedules, the smallest details sometimes escaped notice. In that vast sea of freshly minted 2010 cents, one particular variant, one mistake, would soon prove to be more valuable than anyone could have anticipated. Miles away from the mint, a quiet collector named Eliza was sorting her change at a kitchen table in Indiana. She was no professional numismatist, but she had an eye for oddities, and a fondness for the Lincoln cent. Her father, a World War II veteran, had once taught her how to search for wheat pennies during slow winter evenings. Those memories remained, and she often picked through bank rolls for nostalgic pleasure. It was during one such evening, with a warm cup of tea and a small lamp casting yellow light on the table, that she found it was a 2010 cent fresh-looking. Shiny. But odd, she noticed it immediately when it clinked onto the table. It sounded different, sharper, thinner, almost like a foreign coin. She picked it up and examined the rim. It seemed slightly misaligned. She flipped it over. The reverse, the Union Shield, was there, but distorted. It looked like it had been stamped slightly off-center, with unusual doubling near the De Pluribus Unum banner. Even stranger, the fields looked deeply reflective, far beyond what a typical business strike would show. She tilted it in the light. The coin reflected like a proof, but it carried no S mint mark. The weight came next. She used a kitchen scale, not expecting anything dramatic. But instead of the usual 2.5 grams, the coin came in at 3.1. She weighed it again. Same result. And again. It was heavier than a zinc penny should be. Almost copperweight. Eliza took it to a local coin shop. The dealer initially dismissed it as common. But after closer inspection, his demeanor changed. He made a call to a contact at a grading service. Eliza sent the coin in. A few anxious weeks passed. When the results came back, they confirmed the mystery. Her coin was a 2010 Lincoln Shield cent struck on a copper planchet, something that should not have existed. Since 1982, pennies had been composed of copper-plated zinc. The only legitimate copper coins from post-1982 were special strikes or accidental carryovers. Somehow, a leftover bronze blank from a previous era, possibly a test planchet or experimental strike, had made its way into the 2010 production cycle. And not just that, it had been struck with unusual pressure, producing a semi-proof-like finish without the corresponding mint mark. News of the coin traveled quickly. Coin journals began speculating on how it came to be. Some suspected a deliberate test strike that escaped destruction. Others believed it might have been a leftover planchet from a previous era, stored or lost within the mint's machinery. A third theory gained traction, that the coin had been struck on a foreign planchet of bronze composition, left over from another country's minting contract, and accidentally funneled into U.S. production. The U.S. Mint had struck foreign coins for decades before winding down such operations, but old stock sometimes lingered. Soon, others began to check their change. A handful of additional 2010 error cents surfaced, each slightly different. Some were struck off-center. Some had severe doubling on the shield's vertical lines. A few more, like Eliza's, appeared to be struck on incorrect planchets. But none were exactly alike, and each added fuel to the mystery. Grading services began to label these coins with special designations: wrong planchet, transitional composition, double die reverse, off-center strike. Auction houses took interest. By 2015, one such error coin sold for $18,000. In 2018, another struck on a copper alloy planchet graded MS66 fetched $41,000. By 2021, a deep reflective off-metal strike sold for $63,000 to a private collector who had been searching for early-year shield reverse anomalies, but the most dramatic moment came when another collector in Texas discovered a 2010 cent with an even stranger twist, double strike error combined with a planchet composition mismatch. It was graded, verified, and auctioned in early 2023 for over $70,000. The error had become not just a collectible, but a legend. Still, no official explanation came from the mint. When pressed by numismatic journalists, mint officials acknowledged the presence of unexpected planchets in the production system during early 2010 but gave no formal statement. The silence left room for theories, for speculation, for obsession. Among collectors, the 2010 penny became a symbol of modern era rarity, a mistake born not of outdated equipment or early century minting chaos, but in an era of supposed perfection. It showed that even in the digital age, with machines calibrated to perfection and systems tracked by data, anomalies could still slip through. A few grams too heavy. A millimeter off-center. A missing mint mark. A gleam of mirror-like reflection in a coin never meant to shine. Eliza never sold her coin. She framed it with her father's old magnifying glass and kept it near her desk, a personal reminder of the night she stumbled across something extraordinary. She continued searching rolls, though nothing quite compared. But she knew what she had found wasn't just a rare coin, it was a story, a mystery, a tiny piece of history that shouldn't have existed. Today, verified 2010 US 1-cent error coins, especially those struck on incorrect planchets, exhibiting proof-like surfaces without mint marks, or showing doubling and striking anomalies, can fetch between $36,000 to $75,000 depending on grade and type of error. From the billions produced, only a trace amount have revealed their secrets. And the rest may still lie waiting, in drawers, jars, or rolls, silent reminders that even in a world of precision, surprises remain.